Second conjugation verbs in Russian are known for their exceptions, and in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 of them. But I'm going to present them in such a way that you'll be able to understand them, learn them, and memorize them faster than usual. Давайте начнем. Всем привет, меня зовут Jared, я делаю русский язык легким. As I said in the intro, we're going to talk about exceptions to the second conjugation verbs. This video makes the assumption that you already know how to conjugate verbs in the second conjugation. If you don't, go watch this video right up here. If you've already watched that video, this is the video I'm referencing in that video, which further explains the other exceptions which we didn't talk about. Exceptions to the second conjugation really just come down to 2 factors: mutating consonants and where do you place the stress. There's a few other little nuances there, but those are the 2 biggies. If you get that, you're probably getting 80% of the exceptions. And I want to start with the mutations. I'm going to give you an example of what these mutations are so that you know what I'm talking about, and then I'm going to give you the chart of what consonants mutate to what here. Here's an example for you. The verb ходи. We know that it's a second conjugation verb because it ends in the lетéть znak. But what is tricky here is when we drop the ending, we get to hold. If we were following normal second conjugation rules, we would conjugate this to ходу, but that's incorrect. The de mutates to je, and you get хожу. So that's what I'm talking about in regards to mutations. After you drop the ending, the lетéть znak, you have the root word. And if that root word ends in certain consonants, which I'm going to give you here in a second, it mutates to other different consonants. So let me give you a chart now, which will show you which consonants mutate and to which consonants they mutate to. There's a lot of mutating going on. Okay, here you go. D and z will mutate to the consonant j. S-t, not just t, but the combination of s-t will mutate to sh. The sh. T alone, without the s, will mutate to ch or sometimes sh. The consonant s will mutate to sh. Now, there's 2 different ways to go about memorizing this chart, and that's going to come at the end of the video. I'm going to give you some tips to help memorize all of these exceptions, because after I go through these, my fear is that your head might be spinning a little bit. So just follow me throughout the video, pick up what you can, come back and watch this video a million times if you need to, but just know that it gets easier, and I'm going to give you some tips at the end here. Okay, let's walk through one of these so that you can see how the verbs mutate, and let's take the verb sidétь as an example. It ends in the lетétь znak, and I know that's not our standard indication for second conjugation verbs, but we are going to talk about the verbs that end in letétь znak here in a minute. But for now, just know that sидétь, to sit, takes second conjugation. The first thing that we do is we drop the ending, the letétь znak, and we get sid. De is one of those consonants that mutate in the second conjugation. We know that from the chart that we just talked about a minute ago. De mutates to je. So sid goes to sijh. And then in the ya form, and that's the catch here, it's the ya form only, you conjugate it according to standard second conjugation rules. Ya, sijou. Remember how I said in the ya form only, so it's ya, sijou because of the mutation, but the mutation only takes place in the ya form. So the t form would be sидétь. You see how the de comes back? There is no mutation, and we just conjugate it according to normal second conjugation rules. It's only in the ya form. Here's another one as an example, and I'm going to let you do this. I'll keep the mutations up above here because I know you don't have those memorized yet, but I want you to go through and try and figure this one out. The verb is носи, which is to wear, like to wear a coat, to wear socks. Носи. So what's the first thing that we do here? Correct. We drop the letétь znak, we get the nos. We know that s is one of those consonants that mutates, and it mutates to what? That's correct. It mutates to the sh, so we add the sh ending, and then how would we say I am wearing? Я ношу. So how would we say he is wearing? Он носит. Now, again, I know that stress is moving around a little bit. It's я ношу and then goes to он носит. We're going to get to the accents in just a minute, but just look at the conjugation for right now. It's the ya form with the mutation. The ti, on, ana, ano, muy, vui, ani, all of those forms don't get the mutation, only the ya form. Okay, that's fairly easy. I know it's kind of weird that you have to now know all these consonants and mutations and things like that, but again, I've got some hints coming up here in a minute. So let's go talk about the accents now. Why is this accent moving around? And are there some rules or guidance that would help us understand where the accent should go? Let's start with just normal, plain old, run-of-the-mill second conjugation verbs that end in the item yakiznak. Those are obvious. We know they are second conjugation verbs. The easiest way to tackle this group of words is to first look at the verb in the infinitive form, meaning without any conjugation. And where is the stress in that word? If it falls on the root, or if it falls anywhere in the word that isn't on the item yakiznak, okay, I'm going to call it the first half of the word, then it's going to stay on the first half of the word, or the root of the word, in all the different forms, leti, onana. If we take the verb krásить, for example, once we drop the ending, we see that it ends in the s, so we know it has to mutate. And the stress at the beginning is on the ya. So it's ya krashu, ti krásíš. Muy krásím. Do you see how the stress stays the same because in the infinitive form it was at the beginning of the word? And if the stress comes on the e for the item yakiznak, it's going to stay at the end of the word in the ya form where it mutates. But once it comes back to the ti onana form, it's going to shift to the vowel at the beginning of the word. So you see in hadit, the stress is on the item yakiznak, it comes at the end. So when we conjugate it in the ya form, we know that de goes to je, so ya hожу, but ani ходит. You see how the stress goes back to the beginning of the word there, ходит. And let me call out one other thing too here. If you're wondering about, does this apply to all second conjugation verbs with the shifting stress? I mean, yes, second conjugation has some different nuances there, but generally, as a general rule, you only get shifting stress when you have mutating consonants, okay? If you don't have mutating consonants, you're probably not going to have shifting stress. I can't say always because second conjugation does have a lot of nuances there, but it's a safe bet. Let's go on to verbs that end in the item yakiznak. Those generally, but not always, are second conjugation verbs. In these type of verbs, if the accent or the stress comes on the ending, on the ye for the item yakiznak, it's going to stay on the end through all of the different conjugations. Leti, muy, voy, ani, all of that. They're going to stay on the ending. Sidétь, the verb to sit. Ya sijou, muy sidim. You see how it stays on the end regardless of what personal pronoun or what subject it's relating to there. If it's at the beginning of the word, then it's just a crapshoot. There's really no specific rule that I can give you. Sometimes it shifts and sometimes it doesn't. So just know that verbs ending in the item yakiznak, if the stress comes at the end, it's easy because it stays on the end in all the forms. If it's in the beginning of the word and the root of the word, you just got to know it verb by verb. All right, let's go on to the next category. And those are verbs that take second conjugation but end in item yakiznak. I know, kind of weird, huh? Item yakiznak should be a first conjugation verb. But there are a handful of verbs with that ending that are actually second conjugation verbs. And you're not going to like me, and I'm sorry, but there's just no rhyme or reason to what the accents do with these. It's totally weird. It's all over the place. You just got to learn them verb by verb. I want to give you a list of the most commonly used verbs, and there's not that many. There's 6 or 7 of them here that end in item yakiznak that actually take the second conjugation. And those are кричáть, to shout, slyšet, to hear, держать, to hold, молчать, to be quiet, and дышать, to breathe. There are other verbs that end in item yakiznak that take the second conjugation, but those are kind of the biggies. Those are the ones you're going to run to a lot and you're going to use a lot, especially while you're just learning Russian. I want to give you one more word here, and this one's totally bizarre, but you use it all the time, and it actually takes the first and second conjugation. And the verb is хотеть, to want. In the singular form, it's the first conjugation. So I, you, he, she, it. In the plural, it's second conjugation. Мы, вы, они. So here it is. Хотеть, to want. Я хочу, ты хочешь. You see the stress shifts there. Он хочет, она хочет, оно хочет. Мы хотим. So now we have second conjugation and shifting stress. So much fun, right? Вы хотите. Они хотят. That's just a crazy one, but learn it. You're going to use it all the time. I don't think there's a day goes by where you don't use that verb. Here's the strategies for how to navigate all these crazy Russian exceptions. The first thing that you got to do is you just got to recognize that there are exceptions. There's a lot of them. It's weird and you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. It's more important that you're speaking, that you're using the verbs, even if you don't conjugate it, or if you conjugate it with the wrong accent, or you put it in the first conjugation, not the second, they're going to understand. They're going to know that you're speaking it incorrectly, but they're going to understand your intent. What's key here is that you don't give up. That's when you fail. You haven't failed unless you give up. If you don't give up, you've just made a mistake, and so what? The important thing, again, is that you keep speaking and you keep doing it, and you just note, oh, that wasn't right. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to change it, and next time I'll get better. And what happens is, with time, you do change the endings, your grammar gets better, and you become a better speaker. Okay, that's kind of a long-winded answer to what I want to say is don't give up, don't get frustrated. If you make a mistake, water off a duck's back, as we say in English, just let it go and move on. The second thing that I want to tell you is when you're learning these verbs, when you're memorizing them, conjugate them. So if we wanted to take the verb ходи, for example, to move, I'm moving real slowly today. It's that kind of move. Don't just memorize ходи to move. Memorize the conjugation and say it out loud. Я хожу. Ты ходишь. You see how the accent shifted there? And you may have to look at a piece of paper and be like, now, which one is that? And you want to just say it over and over again. And don't just say it in your mind. You got to say it out loud. There's something about your ear hearing it. And then when you go to say it, it just comes more natural. Your mind's like, oh, I want, and I know it's хожу, or they want, I know it's хотят. It just sounds right to you. You really don't have to think about it. In fact, when I was preparing this lesson, I kind of had to look and be like, okay, now wait, what's the exact rule here? I forget. I knew there was a little certain nuanced rule here, but I just know the verbs so well and I've used them so much, I don't really have to think about where is the accent on this word. I just know that in this form it's there and on that form it's there because I've said it so much. All right, if any of this is confusing you, I know second conjugation verbs are kind of weird and all the exceptions are odd. You have the mutations and the shifting stress. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer those for you. Ну хорошо, тогда это все. Спасибо и увидимся.